In Frank Herberts' Dune, the Fremen are portrayed as highly versatile and hard to outwit enemies, even when they fight against the Emperor's Sardaukar legions. How do they keep the advantage? What lets them defeat the Emperor's troops? The Emperor's troops who have helped House Corino rule the known universe for millennia. Friends, let's find out. The perception of the other organisations in the Dune universe, such as the Sisterhood and the Emperor's forces, are that the Fremen are small groups of people who live in the desert, have little use of technology, hide from giant sandworms, and have no more ambition than to live through their harsh lives and die. Those perceptions are wrong. We're going to go through brief examples from the first book and then touch on what strengths that the Fremen show during those passages. A group of Fremen and a Mentat are being hunted by the Sardaukar forces of the Emperor in the desert. A Fremen uses a bat to carry a message to another group of Fremen. The message is received, and what the Mentat, Thufir Hawat, sees as an inept band of Fremen move out over the dunes. As this happens, an ornithopter comes carrying Harkonnen battle colours. They swoop over this inept band, and after being signalled, land near them. 5 Sardaukar warriors emerge from the ornithopter with personal shields. They have been travelling under the disguise of House Harkonnen, not wanting to give away the Emperor's involvement in the affairs on Dune. The Sardaukar approached the Fremen in an enclosing half-circle. Sun glinted on blades. The Fremen stood in a tight group, ready to meet them. Then the sand-sprouted Fremen. They were at the ornithopter, then in it, and as the dust settled over the two fighting groups, only Fremen remained. The Fremen signalled with a flag, and more Sardaukar came to crush them on a large troop carrier. The carrier settled, its shields down, as lasguns had been used in the area. When a lasgun strikes a shield, it creates an uncontrollable explosion that could harm a few or a large number of people on both sides, so the two are rarely mixed together. Then, over the sand, came the stolen ornithopter from before. It crashed into the carrier, causing an explosion and destroying the carrier completely. What does this show us? It shows the Fremen can give messages in a way that might not be expected by the Sardaukar warriors, whose tech will not work in the desert, or at least not well. The Fremen have adapted and use a creature to bypass that issue. Then the Fremen, natives of Dune, lure out the Corino warriors, who do not know enough of the Fremen to recognise when they are acting weak and clumsily, and then they show their use of the desert to hide and ambush the warriors and take the ornithopter. The ornithopter is then used to take out a troop carrier that, with the ambush exposed, might have wiped out the Fremen there. These are extreme kamikaze tactics, and this shows how extreme the Fremen are willing to go to win. The Fremen might also surprise the Sardaukar with their knowledge of technology, being able to fly the ornithopter so easily, for example. In Dune, the houses that rule the universe are bound by the Great Convention. Part of this is not to use atomics against other human beings, atomics being essentially nuclear weapons. Paul, towards the end of the books, needs to break through a shield wall to reach and crush the Emperor and his forces and attain victory. So he uses the atomics, but is smart enough to not break the convention. He uses them against the wall, but not the people. This shows the change in the level of tactics. The access to Paul and his family's atomics give the Fremen, who would otherwise struggle to match the destruction the Emperor could call down against them. One of the most powerful weapons the Sardaukar warriors have against the Fremen when not in the desert are personal shields. They only allow slow projectiles to come through and reject anything else, thus why close quarters fighting is still used in Dune. For an example from our world, a bullet would be stopped by the shield, but not a slow dagger thrust. Then, calling on the desert power his father had spoken of before his death, Paul uses the storm, once the shield is down, to have sand pushed through the breach, and there the static charge that is unleashed will destroy every shield barrier in the camp, removing one of the biggest obstacles the Fremen would face. Through this breach, the Fremen ride giant sandworms in a wedge attack, hurting the Sardaukar, until the Fremen dismount, and the Emperor's warriors then show they know how to fight with knives. I assume they also don't have the shields, due to the static. Taking out the shields with the charged particles show the tactical understanding the Fremen now have under Paul, who as a duke's son has been trained to fight since he was a child. Then the native sandworms that are thought to be very dangerous and hard to kill and wild are finally seen by the Emperor's legions to be anything but. The Fremen can not only control them, they can ride them into battle. So you see, they continue to surprise the Emperor's warriors with this new, deeper grasp of technology, and with what we saw in the first scenario, the lack of understanding of their world hurts the Sardaukar warriors. This is due to the Fremen's secretive ways, and this is how the Fremen rose to defeat the Emperor's legions, and under Paul Muad'Dib become his ruling force in the universe, as the Sardaukar were to the Padishi Emperor Shaddam IV. Now, friends, it turns to you. Do you think the Emperor's legions are underwritten? Can you see some influence I have missed of the Fremen's strengths in combat? Are they a little overpowered for your taste? Comment down below. Thank you for checking out my video. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for all notifications.